Some heroes follow prophecy, some ignore the plot, marry half the cast, become a king twice just for fun, and shatter fate. And all without a shirt. This is the story of Dave. Our story begins, as all good stories do, with humanity at war with immortal foes. Yes, humans are fighting the ancient race of Fae, the Tuatha Dion, who look suspiciously like vampires. Mortals versus immortals. I'm sure you can see the hope we have for victory.
At least, that is what we believed. Until you died.
But our real tale doesn't begin at the front lines. Instead, we have to head a bit inland to the border of the mortal world and the Feywilds. We are rushed to a gurney and two halflings casually talking about experiments and failures. It is here we meet our intrepid hero. No, not that one. Not that one either. There we go, yes. We are the dead body, the illustrious Danor Alduin Valmir Elinaris, or Dave, as he likes to be called. He died too young. His mustache was in the prime of its life. Now, Dave has woken up in many an unfortunate place, but surrounded by corpses in a pit of death, easily held a respectable bronze medal in his mind. Shaking himself free and taking in his surroundings, Dave could only sigh. Everyone must have thought him dead again. One day they will remember that he's just a really deep sleeper, not knowing of the experiments the halflings were doing yet. Our mustached marauder makes his way to find someone who will open the door for him. Thankfully, it isn't long until he finds an old friend. Well, friend might not be a correct word, but they seem to know each other. Never one to ask a name, or anything else for that matter. Dave agrees to go and meet the Master Gnome with this stranger. Along the way, his new ally tells him that he is at the Well of Souls, and that Dave was the first successful experiment at bringing back the dead. Not wanting to ruin the gnome's day by telling him that he was just a really deep sleeper and wasn't dead at all, Dave is relieved when the Tuatha come by and try to slaughter everyone. Anything is better than the awkwardness of this situation. Learning how gear works and dealing with people who want him dead, which would be, the natural order of things, Dave lost his shirt along the way. When did that happen? Why don't you have a shirt? The lack of shirt did not seem to bother our hero. It bothered me. Anyway, he comes across the Well of Souls and its master, a gnome named Formungus Hughes. He tells us to find his best friend and Fate Weaver before valiantly sacrificing himself, leaving Dave somehow less informed than when he started. But the Tuatha aren't quite done, as they send a troll to finish us off. Much like an internet troll, it struggles with real-life social interactions, and in the end decides that death is better than dealing with people. Escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by death, Dave heads above ground, and for the first time truly inspects the world, realizing he might have been asleep longer than he thought, just like during those high school finals. And he has no idea where he is. Dave travels down the road. I said Dave, you don't need to go into that cave. We can't take every detour we come across. Some of us have places to be, namely you. So after that very pointless detour, let's not think about the flaming sword. The fact that his spine isn't on fire is miracle enough. Let's get back to the plot, shall we? Return to the path. It's not long before we bump into a strange and slightly drunk man, Argath. He offers to read our fortune, as is the special power he possesses as a Fate Weaver, a person who can see the strings of fate that all people possess and tell them of their lives, and indeed how they will perish. No one can defy the strings of fate. The Fate Weavers are the most powerful people, for theirs is the realm of the future, present and past. They dance on the strings of eternity, sharing their infallible wisdom to mortals who want to know of their inescapable, unstoppable future and what will come to pass. Alas, Dave spent most of his youth running with scissors. The Fate Weaver is shocked to learn that our thread is cut up and broken. He cannot tell our future, which terrifies the man. Nothing another bottle of whiskey couldn't fix, of course. Wait, is that why Dave went off the path? Is he free from his fate? How am I meant to keep him following the plot? Actually, you know what? A carrot on a string might suffice. So he sends us on our way to another Fate Weaver to get to the bottom of this. And will catch up to us before he gets to the bottom of his bottle. All we have to do is travel through this town, pick up some supplies, and head to discover our destiny. Dave, no. We don't need to help everyone we meet. I know you like to help, but seriously, we'll never get to the end of this tale if you keep getting distracted. Okay, one sidetrack Dave later, and no, keep away from that priest. Oh gods, we're never going to get moving on this, are we? Wait, if I narrate this and Dave thinks it's main plot, maybe he'll do the stuff I want, thinking I don't. Okay, our hero travels across the land, saving a church dishwasher.
What could a mortal vagabond need with Casmaran the Eternal, messenger of the Fey folk?
From a fake Fey pyramid scheme.
Anyone who has ever glimpsed a Fae would know that. Unlike little Egan here, your head holds more than fantasies.
I know Dave isn't the sharpest spoon in the shed. But even he can tell what is and is not a Fae. And immediately after saving someone from the church, our gallant hero steals a book from them. Come on, you are meant to be the hero.
He will no longer be able to deny my entrance to the Order. Matharu does embrace all.
Oh, it was for women's rights. Okay, that's all good then. Leaving the town. Wait, he left the town? Perfect. Our mustache warrior heads in completely the wrong direction. It's going to be a while before we can get him back on track, isn't it? We do get to meet some Fae, though.
You are bold, but that is not how tales are told in the House of Ballads. Only a worthy Fey hero may finish his quest, complete his story. A child of dust has defeated the grave thresh. What a tale you've claimed for yourself, my friend.
After becoming a champion for them, learn some very important details, like the fact that when Fae are killed, they enter into the cycle of reincarnation, and then they think less of us.
Proceed no farther, mortal. You are not one of our kind, and the seat of Sir Sagral will never be occupied by one so mundane.
Because we can actually die like losers. Play cool, Dave. Just back out of the room slowly. They don't know. Back on the road, this time heading in the right direction, we come to a fork in the path, and being the wise and gallant man his mustache claims him to be, he again goes off subject to talk to a reverse werewolf.
You believe me? Many think I am just another two legs. They are wrong. I am a wolf, cursed to wear this shape by evil sprites as some cruel game.
Okay, this one I'll allow. No one deserves to be trapped in a human body. Poor creature, we must free it. Clearly a familiar bond has formed between the two. The reverse werewolf that hates pants almost as much as Dave hates shirts.
Now I shall drink deep of this potion and return to my kind.
And last, the second Fate Weaver's house. The key to unraveling Dave's destiny. And he was, unfortunately, very dead. But that wasn't too important, as instead stood before our mustached hero was the first person to ever make Dave pay attention to the plot. She calls herself Alien Shea, but that information goes through one ear and out the other, much like most information Dave has been given so far. In trance as he is, he forgets to ask her if she comes to these parts often, when she disappears in a puff of smoke. Dave, for once, sees the point of the plot if he can meet Alan once more. Argoth gives us some information about our next destination, but seems hesitant to actually want to go to the place.
I was hoping to avoid this, but I think I'm going to have to take you to Delok.
There's something there that will help us understand what's going on, but there's something deeper in his eyes. A worry. Dave notices none of that. He is too busy thinking of other types of plot. With a determination in his heart, Dave begins to head to the feared caves of Delac. I say begins because Dave decides he needs a drink and heads to the nearest town instead. Unfortunately, the town is infested with spiders as something has gone wrong. Destiny may not control Dave, but he does enjoy throwing some curveballs. Our hero finds himself at the wrong place at the right time, does what any normal mortal would do, and helps the town, freeing it from an evil, self-appointed mayor and a spider queen. Because why would you follow the plot when you could be gifted a house for messing around? There's a lot more to this story filled with death and betrayal. Just note I'm choosing to skip it purely so we can stay on mission. Dave, however, was happy with his new house and decided to make it a mansion instead. Still, I'm sure this will all be useful going forward. So let's just let him have the nice house, shall we? Arriving back at the story, we come across our drunk Fate Weaver friend in a spot of bother. Nothing another whiskey couldn't fix. His eyes and the bottle that magically appeared seems to suggest. Dave would worry about this man's liver, but seeing as he is necking health potions like they are water, I don't think he has a leg to stand on. Argoth begins to tell us why he loves the nectar of the gods so much. Being a person who can see the future is not all it's cracked up to be. He has foreseen his own death, and from the nervousness and the second bottle of rum, it's clear it's soon. As much becomes obvious when we meet this two-headed monster.
I've seen this moment. I'm sorry, my friend. This is as far as I can take you.
Argoth confirms that he is meant to die to this creature and won't be going forward with us. Dave, not really great with following maps or directions, finds this unacceptable. And after the creature's two heads confirms one tells lies, while the other only tells truths, flies into a murderous rage. Dave is not one for riddles. Riddles killed his father. Argoth is left agape. He should be dead. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but he does not seem best pleased about this turn of events.
He was supposed to. Do you have any idea what you've done? What sort of power you're playing with?
He complains about us cutting his fate into ribbons, freeing him from the inescapable and likely extremely painful death he wasn't looking forward to. Dave stares on slightly annoyed. Maybe the Fate Weaver shouldn't have gone into the cave with the zombie, who is already defying fate by just existing. Maybe next time he'll just let the person meet their fate, rather than let them complain about not dying. Dave doesn't save these things, just tucks them away for a later time.
You are much more dangerous than I thought. We need to get you to the Theater of Fate right away.
Rant over, Argoth, still huffy, leads us on to... What is special about... Well, when Dave touches the rock, he gets a super special stone tablet. Clearly this room was for ancient DJs. There's no time to think as disco music starts and the Tuatha come charging in to dance with Dave. There were no survivors. Still surrounded, our assassin Aline shows up once more, helping us out. The trio make short work of all the issues and meet up for a quick chat about what to do next. Well, I say chat, Dave did not hear a word of it. His eyes were elsewhere. Her eyes are up there, Dave. This is going to be an annoying, ongoing problem with you, isn't it? The only thing that brings him back to reality is that not only is Alan fine, but she might have known him before he went to sleep.
Not to know you're something special. Far more interesting than you were before you died. And that's saying quite a bit.
This is the first time Dave realizes he has no memories of before he went to sleep. In fact, now he thought about it, his head had been missing memories almost as much as his torso was missing his shirt. One of these things could be easily rectified, Dave. But alas, that's all the information we get for now, as instead, the two with actual words to say have finished butting heads.
We can't trust her. No never met a Dogglefar who'd give me a straight answer, even with a sword at their throat.
How dare you?
And instead have left us a path to follow. Aline wants us to head to the House of Ballards to get someone to read the DJ Disc of Destiny, because clearly Dave isn't a reader. Argeth, on the other hand, wants to deal with the fact that Tuatha can easily find us. He has an idea. The choice of where to go is entirely up to Dave, so he chooses neither and heads off to see the world. Heading out, he is met with a man looking for his wife.
Remember when I first saw her? On the cliff to the south, overlooking Ettenmere. I saw that watery maiden and I fell in love with her.
Who, as it turns out, is a flesh-eating water creature.
Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to seal my bond with a ring and a kiss. Any last words for a crusty bachelor?
Some men enjoy that kind of stuff. Saving him from himself because Dave knows there's other fish in the sea, the random farmer falls madly in love with Dave and gives him the ring instead. Legally, I do believe they are married, which might put a dampener in Dave's plan to woo Eileen. I like this development. He meets with the King of Ballards, who sends him on a quest to help another story maker, while the king returns to his throne. This reminded Dave that he had a date with Alan at that location, and completely forgets to help the guy's story out. I'm sure he's fine. Not like we were given a resurrection potion or anything.
Take this potion. You will need it to revive Sir Ferrara.
Anyway, we arrive at the house, but before we can speak to Dave's fascination, the king pulls us to one side with some terrible news. Someone is changing the stories that these people constantly play out, like some kind of weird LARPing session. The lives of immortals must be incredibly boring, but where the heroes once triumphed, they are now failing. So while Dave is nodding along, wondering where his fair lady is, he is kicked out on an emergency quest to find the storyteller. So Dave sets off to the other side of the forest. We have to stop helping people, Dave, or at least you need to get a horse. Finally arriving, we are met by a librarian trapped inside a magical bubble, which is sure to be the dream of most librarians, so long as they can reach the books. This one can't, and explains that the various stories have been stolen by the Maid of Windermere. Dave has no idea who that is. The only way to break the curse trapping her is to go out and complete the tale of 2 knights and a troll, and recover the orbs that recount the story to find the magic words that will break the spell. To save time, because I would like to return to the actual plot the Fate Weavers said I'm destined to tell, the entire story is what if Cinderella was a troll? And there is no magic, and instead we did the Emperor's New Clothes. The dramatic kissing scene was uncalled for. Anyway, troll slain, Fey balls recovered, we find our magic words, and Dave questions what would happen if the wrong words were said.
No, that's not it. Try again. See you soon.
Dave is now afflicted with the curse of slow-mindedness. Nobody noticed. Still, we finally free the librarian, who takes this moment to inform us that the maid is actually going after all the important Fae back at the House of Ballards, which I do feel could have been told earlier. I get that she was captured, but surely saving the entire house takes priority. Alas, maybe she did, and Dave had been afflicted with this slow-mindedness longer than we thought. No, I would have at least caught it. It's my fate-woven job to catch these things, but now understanding that this entire group of people we do not really care about are in danger, Dave saunters back, and arriving, we are met with a villain's monologue and somehow an invitation to join her as her lover. Dave, either from loyalty to his new husband or fear that the assassin he is interested in might overhear, rejects this fair lady's advances.
All of them. That leaves you. Come, I wish to collect you as well. I will be waiting.
And is met with the worst fate of all, being dragged into more side quest plot, as it is confirmed that Dave is the only champion the House of Ballards has left, and thus must rise to the occasion. See, Dave, this is why we don't become a champion. Too much commitment. Still, we find our way through the Maid of Windermere's lair, faced with friends we made along the way, and removing the curse of devotion affecting them by simply saying you are not cursed.
What? Where's the court? How have I come to be here? Why does it feel as though I've just woken from a waking dream?
Which begs the question of why we are needed. Apparently anyone can walk up and do this. Dave's not exactly a master at dispelling curses, but our hero is faced with his greatest challenge yet, one so fearsome. It takes all of Dave's courage to fulfill. Dave must put on a shirt. Pass through a door. Finally, we can be fully armored for the fight ahead, right, Dave? How did you already take off the shirt while I wasn't looking? We arrive inside the castle as the maid continues to seduce Dave, which is like trying to seduce a crow. Sure, you may have its attention briefly, but it's way more interesting than the shiny stuff around the castle. Besides, we already destroyed a magic brainwash crystal. Not that they were that good to begin with. Oh yes, I skipped this bit. Dave was given a magic flute to find and destroy brainwashing crystals. Apparently, smooth jazz is fatal to them. We rescue the king, kill his wife in front of him, and for some reason he decides he's had enough.
I can't do this.
Before the final fight, and books it, never to be seen again. The maid offers power, control, and dominion over the stories themselves. Dave declined. It sounded exhausting. Well, that's one way to end this tale. Arriving back at the House of Ballards, we learn that through a rigorous process of elimination, mostly caused by Dave, our hero was the only one left to take up the mantle of King of Ballards. This would come with absolutely no perks. Dave was annoyed at this turn of events. I was annoyed we got this far. But around the corner, we find our leading lady talking to a fae about the mixtape of fate, to which the fae becomes enraged as the disc foretells of someone breaking free of the chains of fate and apparently killing immortals. Now, who could that be about? Still, the fae refuses to acknowledge the bootleg disc of destiny, and so our assassin friend decides to call upon another source. One that she cryptically explains she cannot join us in meeting. Dave is not listening, very much distracted that his love seems to favor the intellectual types. Maybe this was a sign that Dave should learn to read. She circled a location on the map, told him to go alone, and vanished. Dave had questions, and none of them were about the mission. Now, Dave could have headed straight there, but his other wife, the Fate Weaver, was much closer, and it isn't like his crush is going with him to see this mystery person. So quickly losing interest, Dave heads to the other place circled on the map. Thankfully, it seems like Dave has learned his lesson about taking detours and the responsibility they give as the path is straight and narrow until just outside we are confronted by a guard telling us to turn around as the entire town is infected by the plague. This is going to be a whole thing, isn't it? Dave, who has never been sick for as long as he can remember, which, that only being a few days ago, really doesn't say a lot, heads in to learn if his bearded wife is fine. Alas, after speaking to the one in charge of the town, he is told that he won't get any answers until he solves their plague problem, and rather than following the giant arrow leading him to Argus' location, decides to head into the forest. More specifically to the home of the plague creatures, which, if you know that you have them, why would you not have an abundance of antidotes at all times? So, our brave hero learns of the greatest evil of all, invasive species, as trolls have overtaken the caves, picking up a lightning greatsword for his troubles because, and I quote Dave here, it's shiny and shiny beats darkness. We enter into the secret forbidden city. No, seriously, Dave, what wrong turn did you take to get us here? Of course, our hero, convinced he can find another frisbee of fate to wave into more fey faces, heads further in. But the only thing we find is this giant book, which makes Dave completely uninterested. Reading is for nerds. Speaking of nerds, a necromancer appears, frustrated that we have gotten in the way of his evil schemes. I mean, I'd be frustrated too if a random guy appeared when I was about to take over the world. Not taking our word that we were here by complete accident, no matter how much Dave's shirtless vestige would confirm, he demanded to know who we were working for. Our hero took great offense at someone assuming we knew what we were doing.
It is clear I cannot let you live.
One misunderstanding later, the necromancer was dead, the plague was over, and the world had been saved from a nefarious scheme Dave had no idea about until moments ago. Dave truly was the hero of this tale. Too bad it wasn't the tale we were trying to tell. Instead, heading back to town, the hero that he now was, asking again where he would find a drink-loving fate weaver upset about his continued existence, we find ourselves directed at the tavern. Of course, it was so obvious now it had been pointed out to us.
Last month you told me that the plague would take us all.
I know, but that's not what fate says anymore.
Damn it, Agarth. You're cut off.
Yeah, and I bet I know whose fault that is.
Argath has thankfully been cut off from his drinking, as he has now learned a harsh lesson. People who remain alive have to actually pay off their bar tab. The world can be such a cruel place. After yet more ranting about how it was so unfair he wasn't turned into a fate weaver flan.
But not a hero's death as I had always dreamed. I was going to die alone and unknown, killed by an Etten and used for stew. It was a terrible end, but I knew it was part of fate's greater plan. Then you came and changed that future. You stole my part in the tapestry.
Well, excuse me again, princess.
He finally decides to explain why we are up here. The Tuatha have a device that allows them to track our position. Ancient and dark magic was used in its creation. If Dave wants to be free of pursuit, he will need to smash the device. Dave, being of simple mind and big hammer, only really heard the smash the device part. He happily agreed to the plan. At the site, our hero is informed stealth was an option. Dave rejected it on aesthetic grounds. The grounds being that his abs were meant to be seen. Well, that explains the shirt. So instead, Dave does what Dave does best. Walk into a place, kill anyone who stands in his way, coat the walls an ominous shade of red, but somehow, that crystal is even more red. This angered Dave. How dare something try to outdo his interior decorated designs? Smashing the crystal, a shadow person emerges. It is Gladflow, the leader of the Tuatha. He is not shocked to see us and chooses this moment to make our hero understand why he is after us. He wants us dead because we are meant to be dead. I'll be honest, that's the most sense anyone has made thus far for anything going on. Dave is an abomination. He continues to give a villain's monologue, which I'll be honest, I don't think Dave was listening to, and I was a bit distracted by his voice. It's so familiar.
All serve the cycle. You children of dust do not know your place. You come into our land. You come to face your hunters. And you don't know when to die.
Anyway, with the crystal destroyed, he now has to pay for long-range telephone calls. So bids Dave a good day as he vanishes back to his home. Just in time for Argath to reappear and tell us that in his bloodlust, he's finally decided to be happy he's alive. Much like Gladflow, he uses many words, but Dave is thinking about how to improve his wardrobe. I think a shirt might be the answer. But what do I know? Dave decides to give blacksmithing a try instead. The Fate Weaver declares his love for us. Well, technically he says he'll stick with us so he can't tell his own future. But that's the closest Dave is going to get to a confession of love, so it is enough to officially add the drunk to our harem. We are going to need to get more wine. With our location a super secret once more, we head south with a new determination in our heart. Our true foe revealed, our mission clear, the pressure of responsibility on Dave's shoulders. All we need to do is meet this confidant of the assassin. Nothing will stop us.
We must go to Rundamere. It is the largest brownie den in the She.
Sometimes, Dave, I feel like you're doing this on purpose. One quick and disappointing for both of us quest for brownies later, and Dave is mad enough that he didn't get to find a chocolatey treat to finally arrive at the location of the confidant. A beautiful location. Picturesque, some might say, in the center of it all. Is that a talking tree? For once, a character entrusts Dave with the most important thing in a story. A choice. Which, from what we learned about this particular hero, seems like a terrible decision. The World Tree asks whether we will be good to people or evil. It never wanted an answer, only for Dave to think about the choices he would make along the way.
Where you tread, you mark all you touch. Before I would help you, I must know. Will you be a kind gardener or a careless reaper?
But the tree needs to see our powers firsthand, en route, I guess, and assigns us with a goal. A troll has gone mad, cursed by Tuatha magics, to become the ultimate evil upon this world, Karen. If left unchecked, she will ravage the world, destroying town after town, looking for a manager that does not exist. Dave has a quick flash of a young man with a glorious mustache trapped in retail, truly fearing the threat. He accepts this quest as a matter of urgency. Was this scene actually part of the story? Who knows? I somehow doubt it. Before we leave, the tree gives us a warning about Eileen. Be careful of the assassin, for she is hiding some truths from us. A life we might have lived before. Does she know Dave's past? Alas, the warning falls on deaf mustache hairs. As at the mention of the lady, Dave's mind wanders to other areas of attention. Fate waits for no man. But equally, Dave doesn't wait for fate, as he runs towards the cave to embrace his destiny as the Karen Slayer. And who shall we find at the entrance of the lair but Alan? We venture together, a familiar feeling washing over Dave. Old memories, the warmth of troll blood. Who could truly say? Either way, as our heroes fight through the den of the beast, a shocking discovery is made. Well, less shocking and more expected. The Tuatha are here, experimenting on the trolls. We begin to see the nature of the experiments as Dave comes across Karen herself. Large, angry, destructive. It's clear that she's been driven mad. Her babies have been used in horrifying experiments, and mother's instincts have sent her from a reasonable person to barely a beast. Whatever the Tuatha had subjected her to has left new crystals growing from the beast's back. Prismia, the same substance the Tuatha were using to spy on Dave. There was only one choice. Fate had predicted a disaster. Dave disagreed. Fate lost. Returning to the tree, we are given its blessing and its power to enter the city of the Fae. Dave, in a moment of madness, asks pretty please for more. And for sheer moxie alone, is given some extra power to help with the mission ahead. The entry to the Fae's capital is fairly simple. One must simply meditate in front of the capital for the door to appear. Dave, being naturally zen, by never letting a thought register, had no problem with this task. And so, after all the trials and tribulations, Dave stood in front of the High King of the Fae. See how easy it was to become a normal King of the Fae? Dave did wonder if it would be worth it to ascend further. He decided against it. It sounded like too much paperwork. He hands the High King the plate of plausibility, and finally we begin to learn so much about the true tale of this land. Dave, pay attention. This is important. We are meant to be learning so much. Look, Dave isn't listening, so let me summarize. Tuatha bad. There is a new god on the block. It's making the Fae stronger, but taking their minds in the process. Gladflow isn't doing much better. We need to take down the Tuatha, The High King takes Dave's blank expression and lack of words as acceptance to the task. So, with an actual point to this story established, Dave is left in control of the fate of man, fae, and all living things. They couldn't have picked a worse candidate for the job. The Harem have some ideas on how Dave can get some forces together to take on the evil god. Clearly, the Harem is the brains of this entire operation. Just like all those Japanese animes he loves to watch. They give him two paths to take. Alan wants him to go north, to add a new member to the Love Nest. They are trapped by fate. But if we use our powers of having no idea what we are doing to break through, a disgraced captain will bring us an army. Meanwhile, our lovable drunk has some interesting information. Down south, we might find Dad from Mungus Hughes, who, much like us, seems to have managed to escape death itself. Thinking on his choice, who are we kidding? Dave ran north as fast as his legs could carry him, thinking of spending more time with the favourite and most mysterious of the harem. Eileen only points us along the road to the true target of this region. We head towards the camp of one General Tilera. She has an unfortunate destiny. She was one of the first to battle when the Tuatha rose. Alas, it was in her defeat that the battle lines were pushed back to where they have been sat until now, ignoring how easy it seems to be to get past their line for the Tuatha. In her dishonor, she was sent to retrieve a legendary spear to kill the beast that bested her. Unfortunately, fate, being the cruel mistress she seems to be, decided that instead of a wonderful epic tale, her fate was to stand before an unopenable door for the rest of her life. This was considered honorable. Dave found this unacceptable. I'll be honest, I've yet to hear a good fate of anyone in this land. From being eaten by a monster to being unable to save the world. Maybe fate is the actual bad guy of this story. Still, breaking fate is kinda what we are made for. So she tells us to open this door, we have to move some giant rocks. Just touching one nearby is enough to swing it in our favor, which I really hope Tilera has tried before sitting in this makeshift camp for years.
It may refer to the wind stones scattered across the plains. They bear a striking resemblance to the stones of this ruin. But that's simply me grasping at answers.
Still, there are 5 more in the plains. She points them out on a map and... You're kidding, right? You want this man, this mustached moron, to travel that far on a purely padding quest? Dave, who can't even walk in a straight line without acting like the floor is ice and gravity is shifting to the nearest side quest. Dave, my boy, me and the author of this world are about to have a lovely conversation. So I'm going to montage you through this madhouse. Have fun, do whatever you want. Right, creator, look, I get it. Sometimes you want to create a world, but you don't know what to put in it. This was the wrong choice. You should know by now how difficult it's been to keep him on track. Look, he's in a cave. There's no magical rock in a cave. There's nothing important about this cave. We looked away for 10 seconds and he's off the path. And now he's in a castle. Why is he in a castle? Oh, some guy came along and told him that he needed to remove a curse. And of course, Dave accepted the blatant deception because Dave is Dave.
This ritual of his is not to free us from the curse. It is to take control of his ancestors and raise them as his personal army.
And that's the second necromancy he has had to save the world from. Kind of ironic that Dave is killing people, trying to use the magic that brought him back in the first place. You brought specifically him back just to derail my storytelling ability, didn't you? I'm not asking for much. Just a protagonist who can keep on the path for 5 minutes. But sure, let's make a giant open area with shiny quests galore that don't add anything and hope the one who has the GPS and attraction to every shiny object to ever exist, the crow with ADHD, will be able to be responsible. Traveling across this plane took 3 hours. It was not due to distance. This was due to Dave. Finally activating the last rock. the path to the spear is open, and my nightmare can come to an end. A quick thank you, a few monsters in the inaccessible cave. And Talira is a legendary spear richer. She tells Dave that our next goal should be to end the 10-year siege on the entry point to the Winter Elves' land. Dave, fearing another 700-mile walk to push a singular button, tells Talira he will meet her there, but needs to pop out for milk. Dave, wanting a break and realizing his weapons aren't packing the punch they used to, instead heads for the forge. He is well on his way to becoming a master blacksmith, able to create the greatest weapons the lands have ever known. Such legendary weapons will require legendary names. What will Dave choose? Flamey and Shocky. You know what? These are works in progress, mere blueprints to his finest work. I'm sure his final weapons will be much better named. At least I hope they will be. Still with upgrades in hands, armor reforged, and somehow still without a shirt, Dave makes his way to the last known location of his father in necromancy. At the cliffs, he meets another gnome, Octiane, who explains that our dad might be hidden away in an old cave where he used to do research in the time before he could afford a tower with a whole well of souls. Well, Dave agrees to go in and look for his dear papa, remembering all the good times, like that time he was brought back from the dead, and that other time where he left Hughes for dead. Such happy and pretty much only memories he has. But would you believe it? The cave is infested with zombies. Which, would you classify these things as Dave's siblings? I mean, they might not be as successful as him coming back to life, but they would have all been born through the same process. Are they even alive inside that rotting husk? Is it right to kill them? And this only exacerbates what it means to be alive. I mean, Dave is one giant issue alone. Is he the same Dave he was before? Or is this a Ship of Theseus situation? Is there a soul inside those zombified bodies? Are they the original soul? If not, what is moving them forwards? Where is the line between life and death? Oh, Dave already finished burying them. Moving on. Reaching the deepest levels, we find Daddy. Surprisingly okay, seeing the last time we saw him, he was being chased by murderous Tuatha.
In many ways, your awakening has brought me nothing but misery.
Why do you keep saying that?
Why to use the zombies that were definitely already there and not at all created by the gnome necromancer as a shield to hide from the people who are trying to assassinate him? Dave, either your dad is paranoid or I have a feeling we made a mistake. Right on cue, a group of assassins come to return us both to where fate expects us to be. Still, what they didn't expect was Dave hadn't been listening to anyone, let alone fate, this entire time. Problems dealt with, Papa tells us that we need to go to the gnome capital, filled with corruption and political intrigue, to unravel the political plots and show the world Octarine was evil. He gives us a piece of paper which he has scribbled Octarine equals bad on it. I don't think this man is okay. Still, with grand political mysteries and intrigue on the horizon, our brave hero looks directly at the sun and runs the other way, straight into the simplicity of a mining camp. I'll be honest, I don't blame him. Dave isn't known for subtlety, nor politics, but we must persevere, Dave. The fate of the world is at stake, I think. Honestly, we have found Humongous Hughes. I'm not entirely sure why we need to unravel this evil plot, getting entwined between two businesses. Dave finds himself dealing with an evil manager.
Kill this pest, boys! Please spare me.
And ends up owning a mine. How did this happen? I have no idea. It escalated quickly, and now our mustache has evolved to a business mustache. Truly the character development we were all waiting for. See though, Dave? Business and politics aren't so different. You can do it if you try. Hey, get back here. I am the omnipresent narrator. You can't escape me. As our hero is dragged kicking and screaming to his destiny, he does everything he can to get out of it. He busts the drug-addled Fey gangs.
We of the Circle term it the Narca affliction.
As one of the locals had been doping the local magic well. He isn't happy to get caught, but Dave's suspiciously great sword-shaped anti-drug plaque makes him change his ways. Still, whether he likes it or not, we arrive at Odessa, a hive of scum and villainy. Sorry, I meant politics. It's a regional accent thing. Not only do they know who we are, but they also offer us a luxurious room. Dave smiles at the idea of a bed, not even questioning why they were this prepared for him. We can only hope that is because he is a king of the Fae.
Won't lie to you, Longlegs. You being housed here is because someone wants to keep an eye on you.
It isn't, and after following some breadcrumbs and a lot of political plots that go over Dave's head like water off a duck's back, we arrive at the mastermind of all this political deception, who is exactly the person our father told us to go and meet. Thank the gods. I would have hated us to go through all that and then had to go and find the second person. Funny enough, the scribbles of a mad gnome aren't enough to convince Templar Jorel that Octarine is evil. Well, kind of. Leaving, we are grabbed by the secretary in a very open location that acknowledges that Jorel knows he was probably evil, but due to politics, you can't just arrest him unless he confesses publicly. Which, sure, that's what bad guys do. They admit their crimes in front of people. Clearly, proof or evidence means nothing in gnome politics. Not that we had either, but asking for a change of heart is a bold demand as the only way to take someone down. Dave is annoyed, which I'm with you there, but puts his feelings to one side as he goes to confront the slippery octopus, who explains a lot of the plot to us. It's a shame that it's in the private location, and Dave doesn't really care about all this immunity stuff. That is until he mentions that he knows Dave's backstory. Wait, Dave has a backstory? I thought he just existed to give the real plot a middle finger. And that Ventrinio
will take over the search on the well. He has no such weaknesses. Perhaps I'll even give him your corpse to examine. After all, you met your first death as his assistant. It will be a reunion.
is currently living in seclusion in a second well of souls, the land of the Winter Fae. For a brief moment, Dave's eyes sparkle as his history and the plot collide for the first time. Then he remembers that he's in the middle of a villain's monologue. Dave gathers all his wit, wisdom, cunning, prowess, experience running for small office local politics, consulting an expert on known politics to shore up his case, working with the top-of-the-line experts and lawyers to formulate a winning, infallible, unstoppable method of shining light on the evil, cruel, awful things that this villain has done, signed in triplicate and gone through the correct, proper legal methods to ensure that this evil will be brought up in such a way that none can deny it. Ah, damn it, Dave. Still, defenestration seems to be the wake-up call Gnome Society needs to finally work out that this man is actually bad for him, and he is apprehended. Can you apprehend a corpse? Either way, reunited with our father and drunken husbando, Dave explains the situation. Now knowing that he has a story, actually commits to learning what it is. Fire in his chest, he walks forward to break the siege in his way between himself and the plot. We quickly head to the port town of Rathia to head via boat to the besieged castle of Melsentia. Dave is tasked with convincing Elrond Karth to send his troops with us. He is less than happy to do so, but Dave, having mastered politics, convinces him to lend us a boat and some forces. It does help that we came with Telera and the impossible to obtain Spear of Plot. Always bring a plot spear with you in negotiations.
There's nothing I can offer you.
So with that, Dave heads to the city that has been besieged for 10 years.
I will fight. And if I die knowing that I have made a choice. And this choice, for good or for ill, was my own.
And arrives unharmed, without an issue, in the middle of the city, via boat. I'm not an expert on sieges. I've only conducted 3 or 4 of them, but if the city that you are sieging has access to food and boats, You are not doing your job correctly. The purpose of a siege is to starve the enemy out, make them desperate so you don't have to lose men, not make them comfortable, and hope that you're doing nothing convinces them to give up. I'm really starting to question how the Tuatha got this far. Either way, with Dave's arrival, fate decides that right now, after years of sieging, that right now is the perfect time to launch an attack. Including in said attack is the thing that bested Tilara, the dreaded Balor. Who could this combatant be? Still, we don't have too long to think, with ladders coming up the walls and the enemy installing those things window cleaners use on skyscrapers. The battle is well and truly underway. Still, they aren't dealing with your average resurrected superhuman mustache-wielding disaster. For this one has something new, something fearsome. A purpose. Decimating the armies. Dave runs into his harem. Alan is quite happy to stay back where we've dealt with the enemies as backup. Argath, who somehow, since the time that we arrived, found time to go on a bar crawl, get thrown out of 18 different places after drinking literally all the adrenaline each of them had, before making as many pre-battle banana daiquiris as he could physically drink, arrives.
Child, you can't hide a good battle from an old hero. I wouldn't have missed this for all the wine in the House of Ballads.
Alas, he is having too much fun to stay with us. It's nice to know that he's enjoying himself. They task us with helping the newest member of the harem take down Balor. Dave reminisces about his fish-loving husband. He wasn't nearly as demanding. Still, we get to see this dreaded Balor as an epic battle that fate would deny plays out. With legendary spear in hand, she will be able to turn the tide of this siege against the giant teddy bear and the ravenous hordes assaulting the city alongside it. She can take fate that Dave has already mangled so badly into her own hands, craft something beautiful out of the putty-like substance fate has broken down into, rewrite her mistakes, return honor to her ancestors, redeem herself in the eyes of anyone who would doubt her, prove beyond doubt that she is the mighty warrior whose name will live on for generations.
Theoden, guide my hand.
Of course she biffed it. Maybe fate wasn't being mean to her by denying her that weapon. Maybe it just knew how badly she would fail, and fate was really just trying to save her from herself. Still, seeing as she shouldn't be here, our newest wife finds fate has a way of returning her to the status quo. Laser eyes blast her in her everything.
This ends here.
The Balor retreats, deciding to smash up somewhere else, rather than exactly where the main character is. Come on, Dave. You want something done right, do it yourself. We chase the dreaded and now masterless beast through the city, downsizing the enemy forces for fun along the way. I hope someone watching this battle is keeping tally. Dave should be on top of the scoreboard, and I sure as heck am not doing it. And so the legendary battle begins. Dave unleashes the power he got watching people play God of War, and Kratos is the creature. With their secret weapon literally falling on top of them, the Tuatha begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, destiny is a bit of a cruel mistress and flee back to their homes. We take a minute to mourn our dead wife. makes sure to lie and claim that she was somewhat competent on the battlefield. Not for her honor or anything. Dave just doesn't want to admit one of the harem wasn't pulling their weight. Still, there ain't no rest for the undead. As outside the gates, the army is moving in, and we have a winter fae asking for us. His name is Sedan, who asked for help dealing with the Tuatha. Turns out he's an old drinking buddy of our fate wifer. So he gives us a location to talk and tells us he'll meet us there later. Here's hoping he knows the way drunk. August's got that look in his eye that only comes out when he's downed at least 7 bottles of whiskey. Tequila's a different glint. Tequila's scarier. So we set off to the heart of the enemy. Danger everywhere. Dave will need to keep his wits about him to survive this vast land of danger. And we're already lost. Fortunately for him, and unfortunately for me, Dave is also the person who makes a wrong turn into a 6-hour journey across the land that I legally have to narrate. And thus, when we are told that the possible guide has been waiting for us and extends an invite to the House of Sorrows, Dave quickly assumes this is related to the main plot and heads into a mysterious cavern. The Winter Fae seem to be untrusting of the Summer King and the hero of the siege, who slaughtered so many of their kin, possessed or not. Couldn't imagine why. So they give us a series of tests. Unfortunately, in a world of magic and sharp sticks, questions often boil down to, do you hit it? Dave's answer is almost always yes. Almost because in a weird twist of fate, our hero does not strike down the king, because generally that isn't a polite greeting for royalty. He prefers throwing them out of windows. He puts the idea away for later though, just in case it's some cultural thing for immortals that he is unaware of. Still, after meeting the king, we are informed, since we are so trusted, that there is a traitor in our midst. He tasks us and this lady to track down the traitor so that we can work together to purge this land of Tuatha. Still thinking this is main plot that will help him reach his backstory, Dave travels to save the House of Sorrows. If nothing else, the last time he saved a Fae house, he became a king. Couldn't hurt to help out some Fae, unless they decide to throw him out of windows after. That's the problem for later, Dave. This nice lady claims to be a good tracker, as she can hear the sorrows of people. She offers to read our sorrow.
I can hear them. The sorrows in people. The essence of decay and ruin that precedes winter. I can even hear the sorrows faintly in you.
I'm sure that's completely normal. Fast forwarding through all the murder, that is the only thing that can silence the screaming in Dave's head. Even if only temporarily, Dave catches up to the traitor, who calls us the true traitor's lapdog. Intriguing. Let me just jot that down. Our hero certainly won't. He is just starting to believe that killing is part of the culture of these Winter Fae. The king is pleased with our effort and finally explains what is going on. The main takeaways are that there is an evil bad guy that no one has seen who is working with the Tuatha to bring down the House of Sorrows. And realistically, all the Fae living in this house have the survivability of a game of Russian roulette, except there is only one player and the gun is fully loaded. Dave, look, normally I don't interfere, but I think I can speed this up. There are 3 members of this house. You just killed one. The girl is clearly a plot device. It's the king. Kill him now, and let's move on. Dave, as usual, chooses to ignore the voice of reason, accepts a quest to retrieve the Stick of Destiny. Well, he says he does, but all this espionage is a bit much for our hero, who decides to take a fishing detour to relax. While entertaining a hobby he has in no way shown care for before this point, he hears a group in the distance. Worried he is missing out on some sweet Winter Fae party, our hero hurries over, only to find that the Tuatha are in their emo crystal phase. Still, Dave has never shied away from a party and turns their deep brooding into a mosh pit. There were no survivors, except the astral form of Gladflow. If you can call that surviving.
Your mere existence is an abomination against all things.
He does his best villain monologue about how he has already won, but our hero knows no fear, knows no quarter. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure he knows how to count past 5. But regardless, the gloating goes over Dave's head like most information. But with the crystal of emo conversion shattered, Dave heads back to the true task at hand. Namely ignoring the plot entirely in favor of getting a stick. He meets 2 Winterfell people who have entire character arcs that boil down to never to meet until their mission is complete. What is that mission? Guarding the stick of door opening. Still, we reunite them. They start chatting about what's been going on while they've been separated, which boils down to, once this wall had a snail on it. Best week of my life, with the MacGuffin of side questiness obtained.
That is the key to the sorrows, mortal.
We head back to the very obvious traitor, who praises us on a job well done and continues to call us a fool for believing in him.
How could Saturnin have eluded the minds of so many for these long years? Simple. He was a ruse. His existence was fabricated. While all eyes watched for Saturnin, another was free to wage his war, namely me. All for the glory of Gadflow and our god.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
As now he can corrupt the world of magic and the source of the Fae. Dave, this is why you listen to me. We could have saved literal hours if you'd just taken your first instinct and thrown him out of a window. Probably would have spared a lot of lives as well. Seeing as there is only one person left alive at this point. She, as it turns out, also knew that the king was a traitor, and she is the reincarnation of the ancient High King of the Fae of old. Sometimes, it would help if people just told us these things, instead of being quiet until the worst outcome occurs. I'm just saying, your friends might still be alive. Anyway, she offers us a passage to the world of magic and reincarnation to stop King Traitorous III from enacting his plan of... I think it's to speedrun the Tuatha reincarnation process, but equally, it could just be he really wanted to see where Fae babies came from. Either way, we have to stop him. Why? Well, between the schism I failed to mention, and the fact that he's in that world because we got involved, Dave might feel a little responsible. Don't you, Dave? Wouldn't need to deal with this if you just listened to me once in a while. So we head into the world, and isn't it beautiful? The home of magic itself, the origin of immortality. I am lost in its beauty, its wonder. And Dave's already beaten up people. Wait, isn't that one of the guys we just rescued? I thought the cycle of reincarnation took a while. That's what the Summer Fae seemed to convey. Also, it would make our entire journey pointless if the enemy could just endlessly respawn. Gladflow could never be defeated. But also, why would the civil war of the House of Sorrows matter if they could instantly come back? Why would all the murders that the king did matter? The house would just fight. Everyone would die. They would all respawn and be like, that was fun, same time next week. Also, isn't this the place where the evil king is going if he is slain? Doesn't that mean we have an endless battle on our hands? Especially if he can just as quickly come back. Isn't this quest a futile one? I think what I'm trying to say is that immortality is bullshit and makes no sense whatsoever. So we are going to have to ignore the consequences. Anyway, a quick regicide and a sacrifice of a true king of the Fae later, and we have saved the world from something. Dave looks over the throne, looks left, looks right. There is no one left. He is the only one left in the House of Sorrows, so by process of elimination, he has become the king. Why do we keep rewarding him? He's the reason everyone's dead, and for that he is a king of both Summer and Winterfell. Better get used to avoiding walking past windows, Dave. You know what? Never mind. It's fine. Meeting back up with Sidon, who's been hiding in a cave the entire time we have been wiping out the only resistance left in this land. You'd think he'd have something to say about that, but no. Instead, he tells us about how Gladflow is converting the Winterfell by using special crystals. crystals. Dave, don't you dare take credit for being ahead of the plot, because you just so happened to stumble into story while actively ignoring it. So 2 emo crystals and 2 villain monologues later, and to sum up what we have learned, Gladflow is trying to summon his god into the world, which seems like a poor choice, but it's just what bad guys do. Bit of an unrelated tangent, our hero went to go get some upgrades for his pants, but still no shirt, Dave. In the process, he added yet another person to his harem.
Well, you bent me over the anvil right proper.
Oh my.
At this rate, Dave will have a partner for every day. But regardless, now that this land is going to have a hard time converting Fae to the Tuatha cause, for 2 reasons. Our hero sets their sights on the land that leads to Gladflow's lair. Well, most of our hero's eyes are set that way. Dave's are far away, thinking of the swords he will make that will go down in history, and listening to the ever-present screams. Blocking our path is the immortal Fae that stands at the pinnacle of the House of Vengeance. Well, I guess doubly immortal, as he cannot be killed. There's only one person who has ever gone past him, a name that sparks Dave's attention in a way that's rarely seen in this world. We must head to the other Well of Souls and speak to a gnome that treats life with all the sanctity of a child poking a corpse with a stick. Yes, we must finally go confront the one who knows Dave's backstory, Ventrinio. Dave arrives at Ventrinio's secret private island via magic darkness teleportation. There's a lot wrong with that sentence, but I am struggling to explain it in any way that makes it clearer. We are faced with an unfortunate truth from the moment we enter. Our previous boss might be evil. Its subtle clues: the shouting, the hordes of the undead, the walls, floors, and ceiling covered in flesh. It isn't a guarantee, but the decor isn't looking promising. And yet, after destroying the hordes of the undead Ventrinio created for him, we are met with quite the amicable chap. We help him out of the castle through traditional gnomish means. Dave does love his windows. He's surprised to see us, which is interesting seeing as the man was surrounded by zombies. What's one more to add to the pile? He explains our backstory. Dave was his assistant. They worked together to research the effects that the Prismere crystals had on the Well of Souls. The last time he saw our hero, we were heading towards the source of the crystals. Funnily enough, he tried to stop Dave, but our hero didn't listen. I can relate a lot to this gnome. And where is the source of the Prismere crystals? Why, at the heart of the Winter Court itself, at the center of all that is wrong with the world, in the Tuatha stronghold. Hey, Dave, I know you're not one for plot. This means it's likely Gladflow himself that killed you. Are you gonna stand for that? The gnome doesn't really have much more information about us. We were originally hired by the octopus. Unfortunately, he had a bad case of defenestration, so I suspect he won't be able to shed more light on us. But that doesn't matter, because Dave and the plot are finally walking side by side. All answers point to Gladflow now. If there was ever a reason for our hero to save the world from the evil of the Tuatha, this is it. I mean, we could have used this 30 hours ago. It's been really hard to keep this man on track when there's been no reason not to derail. Ventrinio has one last present for us outside the lair of the immortal, a necklace containing the soul of the invincible killer's twin. Now, I'm not saying showing up to a guy who beats people up for a living with the captured soul of their immortal twin is a bad idea. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. And yet, instead of sending him to a murderous rage, he agrees to fight us in an honorable duel to the death if we give him the necklace. It was probably because the fight was in stalemate while both of us were invincible. Still, with his magic defenses down, Dave casually returns him to the void. Promising to save his house and end the Tuatha threat once and for all. Well, not so much in words as the fire in our hero's eyes. With the path in front of our hero layered with wave after wave of immortal Fae and their troll pets, Dave takes a moment to make a rational decision. There's a first time for everything. He heads to the forge, using all his knowledge of the crafting he has been building up through testing weapons on people's spines. A master blacksmith without the effort he may be, But as he looks upon the anvil, he's hit with a flash of inspiration. He gathers all his skills and knowledge to forge the greatest weapons in the land. Weapons of such might can only truly be given the truest names of power. Names that will be passed down in generations for the tales of pure power they will bring. I swear to God, Dave, do you do these things just to spite me? Fine. Roll montage. With his new weapons, nothing stands between Dave and his goal as he charges through the enemy's ranks, decimating the Tuatha population, ringing in the new legends of the Blue Abs of Death. Legends will remember this massacre, and future myths about the Reaper will picture him with a six-pack, carrying a flaming longsword and the feared Tingle. He catches up to his allies along the way. Alan and Ventrinio are taking the quieter path, hoping to sneak around and deal with issues as we continue our frontal assault. Ventrinio does impart some important information about Dave. Apparently, before all of this, the man known as Dave was a cold, calculating person who would do anything to get the job done. This is surprising compared to the bumbling fool I've had to deal with. Where is that story? He sounds like he knows how to follow the narrative at least. More importantly, he talks about Gladflow's god, Tiranoc. He speculates that the thing we are fighting might not be a god at all, but something much, much worse. My money is on fate itself. It certainly has proved itself to be a bit of an arse through this tale. But as we meet up with our wife of fate divination,
honestly, I haven't had this much fun in decades.
Dave is informed that although they promised to help with the final push, our assassin wife and newly adopted gnome wife are nowhere to be seen. It doesn't bother Dave, since he wasn't aware there was a plan. But Argath shouts about betrayal and needing a drink. He's never been the biggest fan of the assassin wife, probably because she was the alpha wife of the harem. Still, as we charge into the end of all things, nothing can stand up to the harem of infinite confusion. Argath leads, blood spilling into his beard. Saidan shoots enemies from afar, cloaking himself in the hope of his kind's tomorrow and shadows. Dave heads into the belly of the beast, ready to learn the full truth of his past and possibly even save the world along the way.
Good plan. I promise not to die if you don't. Just make sure you put a stop to Gadflow. Do that, and I predict our future involves sharing drinks and war stories around a cozy fire.
Inside, though, is a confusing start to the end. Assassin wife is standing over gnome wife's dead body. Clearly a rift in the harem got out of hand. Dave is just happy Alan hasn't left him. She claims that Ventrinio had been driven mad with gaining Tiranoc's power for themselves, but clearly she wasn't willing to share Dave on Wednesdays. And so the true Lord Dumper reveals herself. We already knew that she had something to do with Dave's past, but it was mostly swept under the rug. Mostly because Dave's attention was elsewhere. The tale is broken up by fighting, so I'll throw a summary in here. These two were part of a secret organization whose goal it was to keep Tiranoc a secret from the world. Clearly they failed. Much like how quickly Ventrinio became obsessed with the power, letting anyone who finds out is a quick ticket to the end of the world. And what is Tiranoc? Well, apart from apparently being a siren, it is also actually a dragon. So, you heard it here first. In the game of rock, scissors, paper, dragon beats God. It wasn't greed that sent us to our death, but duty. Fate had already told of Dave's fall facing off against Gladflow and Tiranoc, but apparently he was quite arrogant and thought he could defy fate, which just goes to show his personality may have changed, but the brain damage was there prior to Dave's death. It also goes further to my opinion that the real enemy in this world is fate. As if fate was delivering one last middle finger to Dave, Eileen confirms that she can't join us in the final battle because fate won't let her go with us to Tiranoc's realm. And because this scene is actually amazing, I'm going to let it play out with one minor edit. See if you can find it.
She comes. Tiranoc the powerful. Tiranoc the merciful. Qualla fella Tiranoc. Qualla sera Tiranoc.
Enoch? Have I done well, lady? Are you pleased? Did I
have served your purpose?
But
Oh, bother.
And so, we begin the final match. A mountain of a dragon, destroyer of worlds, and corrupter of fate. Versus Dave, casual menace of the thread of fate, and narrators alike. Clearly, it's a bit of an unfair matchup. Still, by stealing from alternate possible timelines, like the one where he became a model, and the one where he actually listened to the plot, and all the problems were solved so much faster, and life was way better, and his whole harem was alive, and no one had to go out of a window. Dave absorbs the power of infinite bullshit, using it to push Tyrannot back until... Time passes, the world returns to normal, and while our hero finally takes the long nap, the eternal rest, the final slumber, blessed reprieve for both of us, finally able to drift back into the unending quiet. Both of our jobs finally done. Damn it, Dave. Eileen, my new least favorite character, saved us, somehow forgetting she couldn't walk through the door to the other world and carrying him out to safety. She has left, though, onto lands anew, destroying Dave's dream of a life tending the fields with his harem. Retreating to the backup wife, explains that by destroying Gladflow and the evil that controlled him, somehow never learning of Tyrannot, we have finished in our mission in running scissors through fate, destroying predetermined paths forever. And so, with the evil of the Tuatha destroyed, the age of the immortal Fae coming to the end, the true evil of fate destroyed, a land as free as Dave created. The narrator chooses to flee from this world as fast as possible. A land of unending Dave truly sounds like a nightmare. I mean, there is DLC, but I'm out of here. You can experience that yourself. I'm retiring and getting as far away from Dave as possible. And that was the story of Dave, a man who defied everything, broke the fundamental nature of his universe, and is still somehow the hero of the tale. If you want to experience it yourself, there's plenty I didn't cover. If you enjoyed this video, stick around. There's plenty more to come. We may be heading into sci-fi next. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.